Your team is using AI right now. ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Perplexity, Gemini, maybe even Grok. And here's what nobody is telling you. Every single one of these tools is excellent at some things and terrible at others. Every single one of them has a different relationship with your data. And every single one of them in its consumer form is a potential liability for a business that operates under HIPAA, GDPR, SOC, or any kind of compliance or requirement. Today, I'm going to do something that nobody else in this space is doing. I'm going to give you an honest breakdown of every major AI tool and what each one is generally great at and what each one is generally bad at, and what each one is actually doing with your business data. And then I'm going to show you how we solve all of it with Fortify AI. Not by giving you one more tool and telling your team to figure it out, but by giving you every major model locked down, completely secure, with a prompt coach built in, and a team that partners with you and your team to build automations that actually save you time, which ends up saving you money to then focus on growing the business. This is the episode your entire leadership team needs to hear, including anyone in those departments that could really be helped by remediating those remedial tasks that they're constantly doing day in and day out. Now let's get into it. Before I break down each tool, let me explain the core problem. There is no single AI tool that does everything well. That tool doesn't exist. Anyone who tells you just use this one platform for everything is either lying to you or really doesn't understand AI. Claude is great at many things. ChatGPT, also great at many things. But they're also really bad at other things, at a group of them. The same is true for every model on the market. Each one of them has strengths. Each one of them has weaknesses. And the other businesses that win are the ones that can pivot and use the best model for each specific task, like we do for you. But here is the bigger issue. When your team uses these tools in their consumer form, your data leaves your environment. It goes out into a system you do not control. You do not know where it is stored. You do not know who can access it. And you do not know if it is being used to train the next version of that model. Even if you have enterprise licenses, they're going to cost too much and they still have pitfalls, and we'll get into that. You do have zero visibility into what your employees are uploading: client records, financial data, contracts, pricing sheets, patent information, intellectual property, social security number, internal strategy, all of it, potential flowing into public AI tools every single day with no oversight. That is the problem. Now, let me walk you through each tool one by one, the good and the bad, honestly. Let's start with Claude, made by Anthropic. Here's what Claude is genuinely great at. Claude is one of the best models, pound for pound, in the world for writing, reasoning, and handling long, nuanced documents. If you need to work through a complex contract, draft thoughtful communication, or reason through a difficult problem with a lot of context, Claude is absolutely exceptional. It's also very good at many other things. We can't get into all of them due to time. It tends to be careful and thorough, and it handles nuance better than most anything else out there. It's genuinely excellent tool. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but here's the business problem. In its consumer form, when your employee pastes your client's confidential information into Claude, that data leaves your environment. You are trusting a third party with sensitive business information, and you have no control over the boundaries. You have no tenant isolation. You have no compliance configuration. You have no audit trail of what your team is actually sharing. Claude, the model, is excellent. Claude used raw inside a regulated business with no guardrails is a compliance exposure waiting to happen. The strength is real, but the risk is also just as real. Now, next, ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. I'm going to group these two because they share the same underlying technology, but they show up in your business very differently. Let's start with what they are genuinely great at. ChatGPT is one of the most widely adopted AI tools on the planet. It is versatile, it is fast, and most of your team already knows how to use it. It is strong generalist for brainstorming, drafting, summarizing, and general productivity. But it is also a powerful tool. Now, Copilot has one massive advantage. It is built directly into Microsoft 365. It lives in your Outlook, your Word, your Excel, your Teams, your SharePoint. For a Microsoft heavy business, that deep integration is genuinely useful. Your teams does not have to leave the apps they already use. Now, here's the business problem, and it's a big one. Copilot inherits every single permission in your Microsoft environment. It does not have its own security model. It uses whatever permissions already exist. So if your SharePoint is messy, if your file sharing is sloppy, and you haven't locked out everybody who shouldn't get into every single folder and file, if your old folders are overshared, if a junior employee technically has access to executive compensation files or layoff plans or client contracts they shouldn't see, Copilot's going to surface all of it in the moment someone asks. Copilot does not create the permission problem. It exposes the permission problem at the machine speed. Before Copilot, these badly governed files were buried. Nobody could find them. With Copilot, an employee just types a question and the AI hands them everything they technically have access to, whether they should have it or not. And with ChatGPT in its consumer form, you have the same data exposure issue as every other public tool. Your team is pasting confidential information to a system that you do not control. Both are powerful. Both used raw in a regulated business create real risk. Now, let's talk Perplexity. Here is what Perplexity is genuinely great at. Perplexity is built for research and real-time search. It pulls current information from the web and cites its sources, which is incredibly useful when you need up-to-date answers with references you can verify. If your team does a lot of research, market analysis, or fact-finding, Perplexity is absolutely a super strong tool that is specific in that job. It genuinely is good at what it does. But here's the business problem. When your team uses Perplexity, their queries and any data they include flow through Perplexity's system. For research on public topics, that's fine. But the moment an employee includes confidential business context in a query, that information's leaving your environment and it's moving through a third-party platform. And like the others, in its consumer form, there is no tenant isolation, no compliance configuration, no oversight of what your team is sharing. It's a great research tool, same underlying data risk when used raw in a business that handles any type of sensitive information. Even if you don't, I promise you, you don't want your intellectual property leaving. Next up, we have Google Gemini. Here's what Gemini is genuinely great at. Gemini is deeply integrated into Google Workspace. If your business runs on Gmail, Google Docs, Google Drive, and Google Sheets, Gemini connects right into that ecosystem. Mostly that's educational sector as well as a bunch of others, but it is a strong tool. It is also strong and capable model of handling a wide range of tasks very well. And it has some of the largest context capabilities on the market, meaning it can work with a very large amount of information all at once. For a Google-based business, that integration is genuinely convenient. But here's the business problem. First, like Copilot, Gemini can surface information across your Google Workspace based on existing permissions. If your Drive sharing is messy, that's a risk. Second, and this is the bigger strategic concern, Gemini is built by the largest advertising and data company on the planet. For a business in a regulated industry, you need to think very carefully about what data flows through that ecosystem. The convenience of integration comes with a real question about data governance, especially in healthcare, legal, and financial services. Capable model, yes. Convenient for Google Shops? Absolutely. But the data governance questions are serious for regulated firms. Now, finally, Grok, made by XAI and tied into the X platform. Here is what Grok is genuinely good at. Grok has real-time access to information on X, and it tends to have a looser, more conversational personality. For real-time social sentiment and current events tied to that platform, it has a niche. But what I'm going to be honest with you on is Grok is the least enterprise ready of all the major tools. It has the loosest guardrails. It is the newest and the least proven in a business compliance context. For a regulated relationship driven firm, Grok is the tool I would be most cautious about putting anywhere near your sensitive data. The strength is narrow, the business risk for a regulated firm is extremely high. Now, the real answer. So here is where this all comes together. Every one of these tools has strengths. Claude reasoning and writing, ChatGPT for versatility, Copilot for Microsoft integration, Perplexity for research, Gemini for Google integration and large context. Each one is a best tool for some specific job. And every one of them, used raw in regulated business, creates an absolute real data risk. So what's the answer? The answer is not to pick one of the tools and hope for the best. The answer is not to ban AI and fall behind your competition. And the answer is definitely not to give your team a single tool and tell them to figure it out. The answer is Fortify AI. Here's what we built. Fortify AI gives your entire team access to all of the major models, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and more. But here is the difference. We have vetted and tested every one of them. They run inside a secure, locked down environment where your data is isolated to your own dedicated tenant. We do not use your data for any model training. We do not share it across clients. Your information stays yours. So now your team can use the best model for each individual task. Claude when they need deep reasoning, and a different model when they need something else, all from one source platform with full guardrails configured to your regulatory environment, whether that's HIPAA, GDPR, SOC, or CCPA. And it gets better. Fortify AI has a full-time prompt coach built into every interaction. This is powered by a behavioral science methodology. The moment your employee writes a prompt, the system coaches them on how to make it better. That does two things. One, it reduces bad answers and hallucinations by up to 74% and gives every employee back hours every single week. The industry cited a range is 4 to 8 hours per employee. We build our numbers around 5. We even have an ROI calculator on our website at i-nett.ai. You put your number of employees, your average hourly cost, and it shows you exactly what a 5-hour per week productivity uplift is worth to your firm. Year over year, for a lot of firms, that number is in the 7 figures. And then there's a part that nobody else does. We build agents with you. You're not handling you a tool. Excuse me, let me say that again. We are not handing you a tool and walking away. We're partnering directly with you and your team. If you have a tech-savvy team that wants to build their own automations, they absolutely can. But for most firms, we sit down with you, we learn your workflows, and we build the agents that eliminate the repetitive manual grunt work that your team should not be doing. The platform has a flat per user price, and for every 25 employees you have, you get an active agent included to automate something in your business. Need something more complex? We can combine multiple agents allotment into one bigger one, more powerful agent. Beyond that, you're essentially just paying for token usage, the actual cost of what the agent consumes. We break all of it down completely transparently, nothing hidden. And here's the promise. The consulting is included once you're on our platform. We will scope the automation. We will tell you what it costs. And if the cost does not outweigh the time and money it saves, you just don't deploy that particular agent. It costs you nothing to explore. Our entire goal is to help you automate as much as possible so your business runs smoother and your team is way happier not doing any of the mundane work anymore. Because here's the truth. When you have a six-figure talent doing $15 an hour manual data entry, that's not good. Not a good use of their time or what you're paying them for. It kills morale. And your competition is already eliminating that grunt work. If you do not, you are going to lose your best people to a company where they can be twice as efficient and have twice as many opportunities land on their plate. Most agents we can launch in the first week to 3 weeks. The complex ones can take a little longer. And we partner with you forever on building out what actually saves you time and money. And if anything happens to those agents and they need to be updated because you change a CRM tool or an accounting piece of software, we work directly with you to fix those particular items. Now, let me tell you something that no other vendor will tell you. AI is not good at everything. And anyone who tells you it is selling you a fantasy. Let me give you a real example. AI is not good at completely automating your entire marketing with no human involvement. If you let AI build, manage, and maintain all of your marketing with nobody checking it, that content is going to end up wrong. Worse, you could end up with a legal problem or a sale for one of your highest paid ticket items for $1. We've already seen it. AI might say things your business legally can't claim. It might be misleading, and you could get into serious trouble if nobody is validating it. The same thing with fully automated entire phone conversations. If it's basic lead generation and verification, asking 4 questions and getting 4 answers, that is easy. And that is what AI is going to be great at handling. But the full nuanced human conversation, that still needs a human. There needs to be a handoff once the initial component is started. Here's the principle I want you to take away with. AI is best when it enhances every single human and takes away the grunt work. You are still going to do about 20% of almost every task at minimum. But if 80% of that task can be done by AI with a human verifying everything, that is where the magic happens. One human can dramatically do more in a fraction of the time, and then that frees them up to find new, creative ways to build, manage, and grow their role. But you have to stop thinking that one tool is going to do everything. No single tool does everything. It does not exist. You need a solution where you can pivot and use the best model for each task, with automations built so you have a giant brain verifying how your business works, making sure everything is correct, and making sure legal has checked it. We have a way to do that exactly with our automations team. Our team works directly with you, partners with you as long as you're with us, and builds those AI solutions. And again, if the cost of the agent does not outweigh the cost of your team doing it manually, we just don't deploy it. It costs you nothing. That is the honest version of AI. It's not magic, it's leverage. And leverage applied correctly with a human in the seat is how you win and crush your competition. So here's where we land. Every major AI tool is great at something and risky to use raw in a regulated business. The winners are not going to be companies that pick one tool. They're going to be the companies that deploy all of them securely, with guardrails, with a prompt coach, and with a partner who builds the automations that actually save time and money. That is Fortify AI. We give you every model in a secure, lockdown, compliance-ready environment. We coach your team to use it well. We build the agents that eliminate the grunt work, and we partner with you forever. If you want to see what this looks like for your firm, Go to inet.ai, take the AI readiness scan, run the ROI calculator, and see what 5 hours a week per employee is actually worth to your business. And then book 30 minutes of a consultation with us. In that conversation, we will scope your environment, identify the highest leverage AI deployments for your team, and show you exactly what a Fortify AI rollout would look like. The only question is whether we are having that conversation with you or with your competition. The booking link is in the show notes and on our LinkedIn. The website is inet.com or inet.ai. This has been The Digital Dilemma. I am Nick Dreyfus, Vice President of Business Development for inet. Until next time,